Okay, welcome back to another round of online physical science. Today we're going to go over two different equations very quickly. The reason this video is going to be pretty quick is because we've done this already. This is three variable math. We've done this with density. We've done this with velocity. Now we're doing it again with acceleration and force. It's just different variables. So same skill set. The biggest thing that's different in science is being able to pull out those variables based on the units of measurement. So I'm just going to give quick examples of both, talk about how to rearrange the formulas, and hopefully get both of them done in 5 minutes so you can rewatch and use as needed. Acceleration formula, we have v divided by t. We often just say v divided by t, but don't forget that there truly is those deltas out front. The delta stands for change in. So when we do acceleration, we're going to do a lot more change in, something moving from moving to moving faster, moving fast to moving slow, stand still to stop, stuff like that. That's a change in, and same with the time. So with acceleration, we have a couple more changes. So just let's give an example. We'll even solve for one of the tougher ones. So if we have an acceleration of 10 meters per second squared, that can be written per second squared or meters per second. Either one is fine. The key to acceleration is that it has a velocity divided by a time. So it has a distance divided by a time for acceleration. And let's ask what velocity that would be at after 5 seconds. So velocities are unknown. Remember our rearranging of equation. If I want velocity by itself, I need to get rid of the t. So I do multiply both sides by t, and I get v equals a times t. Give you all three versions just real quick. If you wanted to solve for t, t would be equal to v divided by a, just so you have all three versions. But I'm going to use this one this time. So velocity would be equal to 10 meters per second squared times 5 seconds. Picked easy numbers so we could do this real quick. Gives me 50 meters per second. This gets rid of one of the seconds. So multiplication gets rid of one of the seconds. That's why it becomes just meters per second down here. And meters per second is a good measure for velocity. So that's how you can double check yourself. Distance divided by time for velocity. And this would be the change in. So if this started at 0, it would be at 50 meters per second. But if it started at 20 meters per second, it would all of a sudden be at 70 meters per second, because this stands for the change in velocity. Coming over to my force equation, kind of the same thing. Let's just give you all three versions real quick. F equals ma. That means that mass would be equal to F divided by A. And A would be equal to F divided by M. Those would be my three versions of that equation. Give me some random numbers. Let's say my acceleration is still 10 meters per second squared. And let's say I applied a force of 20 newtons. Newtons is our measure of force. Newton stands for kilogram times meters per second squared. But since that is really tough to write out every time, that's why we just change it to newtons. Newtons is shorthand for kilogram meters per second squared. What's my mass? Means I use this version of the equation with mass all alone. Mass equals 20 newtons divided by 10 meters per second squared. This one, force in particular, is one where just knowing what makes sense. Everything else, newtons is in kilograms, so my mass is probably in kilograms. Kilograms is a measure of mass. If you want to do all the algebra behind the units, you can, but it is a lot tougher with force. So force is one where you just might want to remember what the typical units of measurement are. So 20 divided by 10 gives me 2 kilograms. Three variable equations. The only thing that's new is the variables, which variables, making sure you know which variables to plug in and which variables go into which equation is the big thing this time around. Hope that helps. Make sure you rewatch if needed and set up an extra flex with me if you need to as well. Have a good day.